the biggest risk is not taking any risk. Making sure that you have your bases right, that people understand the strategy, that you have a clear roadmap on how you're going to achieve growth. For a startup or a brand that's smaller and it's like a world of possibilities, I think that the biggest challenge is
Welcome to the B-Sides, where we are celebrating the inspiring humans behind extraordinary achievements. We're filming live from Cairns, as you can hear, and I'm joined by Fernando Machado. Fernando is a prolific global marketer with a reputation for exceptional brands and cultivating amazing growth across the brands in his stead. He's currently the global CMO at Notco, a unicorn startup valued at over $1.5 billion that pairs animal and plant-based proteins. I think I'm super fascinated by that. Before joining Notco, Fernando spent 2 years as CMO of Blizzard Activision, working on colossal brands including Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Diablo, Overwatch, World of Warcraft. Before that, he held huge marketing roles in global brands including Burger King, Popeyes, Tim Hortons. Before that, almost 20 years over at Unilever, where he became famous for groundbreaking initiatives, including Dove's Real Beauty Sketches. He is the Dean of the Brand Marketers Academy for Cannes Lions, a prolific board member, advisor, and mentor. I'm gobsmacked. Where do you find the time? But thank you so much for joining us this morning.
No, it's my pleasure. It's great to be here.
But look, that is what we like to call your A-side. And we're going to get under the hood a little bit of your B-side. And so what I'd love to kick off is, how did all of this come about? What inspired you to get into the brand marketing space, and what inspired you to become such a prolific, leader and entrepreneur in this space?
Yeah. So first of all, hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here in Australia. First time in Cairns, so I'm
awesome.
Really
welcome
excited.
to the tropics.
Thank you. So look, I think that when I chose what to do in college or at early days in my life, I didn't even know what marketing was, right? So I actually started to work as an engineer. I studied mechanical engineering and I was an intern working in a factory in Unilever. And that was the first time I've heard the word marketing. The marketing team came from São Paulo. I'm Brazilian, that's why I have this funny accent. And they came to show us what we would be manufacturing in the factory in the next couple of months. And it was the first time I had contact with marketing, seeing that they had the data side of life, of the P&L, with the market research, but they also had a creative side with design, with advertising, conceptual thinking, and all those things. And I grew up in a little bit of this duality, I was good with numbers. My dad was an engineer. I studied mechanical engineering, but I was always drawing, and I was the guy sitting on the back making jokes, you know what I mean? I was the guy who did all the t-shirts for the class. And I felt I like that. I like that you have the more quantitative side, but you also have a creative side. And then I applied to the management trainee program for Unilever, and I moved from the factory straight to marketing. My desire was to do cool things, do creative things, learn, and become a global marketeer. I was always very curious about the different cultures, different people. I wanted to live abroad. That was my real ambition. And then I grew up in Unilever. I was there for almost 20 years. Sounds like a long time, but I was moving countries, moving brands, never felt that long. And then moved to Burger King, which then became Restaurant Brands International, moved to Activision Blizzard, moved for Notco, and today I work with private equity group. I work with advising for different brands. So it's just I just try to keep things interesting, really.
And if you look back over your time across, both those very different business models from, big conglomerates in Unilever to private equity, what will be the three things that you think are most valuable that you've collected along the way? And on the other side of the coin, the three things that on reflection you've let go of?
Yeah. So I think that the change is good. It's not, it is a thing, but it's not a thing specifically from a place. It's more like the process of changing. And seeing different industries like consumer goods with Unilever, and fast food with RBI, and gaming, which is more like entertainment, and large and small, right? I mean, in terms of the size,
Yeah.
I think it makes you a better business person. You know, like I think that anything that has to do with diversity, whether it's diverse businesses that you work on or diverse people that you work with, makes you a better professional. You know, it doesn't even matter like if you are in marketing or otherwise. So I think that's kind of like one thing.
Yep.
I think that the second thing is like looking back is how much, especially Unilever, invested on my development. You know, I came from a factory and went straight to marketing.
Yeah.
And I felt I was always very lucky to have mentors, bosses, and sometimes they were not even the same person, who coached me and helped me develop. And Unilever invested in that training. So I also think it's important that you find time as a leader, now that I am older, right, to nurture the new generation of people that are coming. That's why I get involved as with Cannes Lions as a dean of the Brand Marketing Academy. That's why I'm involved in some other boards like the One Club, you know, like because I feel that those are organizations that are investing on the new generation that that's coming. The third one to me is like how creativity wins. You know, like my whole school of marketing from Unilever, it was a school that was very purposeful, but it was also very creative. And I truly believe that if you take the creative path on the long run, it produces better results for your brand, for your business. So that's what I've learned. You know what I mean? Like changing is good, investing on nurturing people is important, and taking the creative path.
Yeah, I love that.
What I left behind, I don't know. like, I think that my experience have been way more positive than negative. You know, like in terms of like the people I worked with, the brands that I worked with, the creative partners that I worked with. I think you as you get older and more experienced, you get less anxious about things, and I think you become more even in terms of like don't get so desperate when things don't work the way you want. You know what I mean? Because you've seen that before. So I think it's more like a maturing process than leaving behind specifically one thing.
Yeah, but I think that it's such a valuable quality in senior leaders, you know, to be able to weather the storm, and they're looking to you for calm.
Like nothing is so bad as it seems, and nothing is so great that you don't have to continue to work. You know what I mean? Like I think you need to know how to balance things.
I love that. How does that ladder into the way that you cultivate the teams that you lead?
The feedback that I get usually, and that's kind of like the way I am. I tend to be a very approachable person. I'm very informal.
Yeah, I can speak from firsthand experience.
And like, and I'm just looking for the best ideas and to collaborate with people. You know what I mean? Like, by no means I'm saying I'm perfect, but like, I think that the teams that I lead or the teams that I'm part of, I always try to invest for us to know where we are heading to and to work in a collaborative way to get there. You know, like I think that we always say that working in the right culture where you have a good cultural fit is important. And I know firsthand that that's really, really important. You know, the culture and the way people interact with each other, it's up any process or racy diagrams or all that crap. Sorry, like I shouldn't curse.
You can swear like a sailor.
That's great, because I swear a lot. But like, I think that culture is very important, you know, and investing time to build the culture of your team is important.
In a sentence, how would you articulate the culture that you aspire to build in your teams? And why is that the sentence?
I think it's a culture where people are ambitious creatively and are not afraid to voice their opinions in terms of how can we do better. You know, like, and I think that the way to do that as a leader is for you to incentivize people to speak up. Some people are a bit more shy, some people are more introvert. Many times the best idea comes from those people, so you need to make them talk. And if things don't go as per plan, which happens, like for you as a leader to hold people accountable, but privately, and shield the team so that they don't get afraid of trying different things because something didn't work as per plan.
I mean, you're renowned for your, the way that you pioneer creativity in the work that you do. I can imagine that that's a high risk, high reward game, right? And that there's a level of acceptance or at least comfort with failing,
Yep.
right? You push forward with a creative execution and you might not get it right.
Yep.
I'd love to understand your philosophy around,
Yeah.
failing fast, learning quick, and again, how you enable that within the teams
Yeah.
that you lead.
Like I think there is a quote from Mark Zuckerberg, which is the biggest risk is not taking any risk. And I truly believe on that. I think that um, in the cluttered world that we live in, where we are bombarded by different stimulus from brands, from our personal lives, from everything. If you don't do something that stands out, it doesn't engage with people, um, it will fall flat,
Yeah.
and no one will care. And it's not that I'm not afraid when we're doing a daring campaign or a design change or something like this, but I'm even more afraid of doing something that will fall flat. You know what I mean? Like, so we always try to keep it interesting. We always try to understand our consumer or our brand fans as much as we can, and do things that we believe will stand out. Like from my experience, like when things don't go as per plan, 99 out of 100 times, what happens is nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and nothing tends to be the most common outcome when you do things that are flat. So I prefer to at least try to do something that will be different. And then if it doesn't work, hopefully over time we'll do more right than wrong. And that will help us create this buffer of credibility with the organization. And as a leader, I think you need to shield the team for the moments when things don't go so well. But that's kind of like what I try to do.
Perfection is the enemy of the done, as they say.
Yeah, those are all, I think, like quotes and phrases on Meta's office, by the way.
Yeah.
So like I think that it's also a quote from Bill Bernbach, which is the B from DGB. If your advertising goes unnoticed, everything else is academic, right? And I think it's very easy for things to go unnoticed. It's very easy for you to do something that's not going to be criticized. Just do something that's irrelevant. Then no one will criticize, right?
Yeah, there was a great quote. I can't remember who it was from, but she was saying, unless you're willing to piss off 80%, you won't inspire 20%.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would take 50. Like, it's funny because sometimes people say like, oh, but that's very polarizing. And I'm like, okay, so that means that maybe 50% of people are not going to like, and 50% of people will like. Your brand has less than 5% market share, so you should be fine.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
You're
unless
45%
you have
upside.
51% market share, you should be fine in most of those situations. Yeah.
I'm fascinated. Where does the self come into this, right? You know, we've covered off your philosophy as a leader, but from the outside looking in, you've got this amazing self-awareness, right? You know where you sit as a leader and what your people look for in you. How do you keep your tools sharp, you know, and what do you do to fill your cup?
I try to surround myself with people who are very creative and that I enjoy spending time with. You know, like life is too short and we work so hard. Like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, like, and it can happen, right? I mean, we also need to pay our bills, but like try to find something that you enjoy more, like, and surround yourself with people that you admire and that inspire you to do better. And that's kind of like what I try to do. I also love what I do. You know what I mean? Like I feel very lucky that very early days on my career, I found something that I truly love. So the work doesn't feel painful. Like I wish that I could say, no, yeah, you're not going to have to work that hard. No, the reality of life is that everyone who wants to be successful, we need to work really, really hard. So you better find something that on the long run you enjoy doing, else it's going to be super painful.
Yeah.
So I try to surround myself with people that I enjoy spending time with, that I think are incredibly creative, that push me to do better. I try, because I love the industry, I try to see what other brands are doing all the time. Like that's the value of like coming here and connecting with the local community here. I was in New Zealand in another event not so long ago. I'm going to Korea towards the end of the year. I'm going to Cannes, the other Cannes. This is the first Cannes, then the other Cannes, in like 2 weeks from now. And seeing the work, I mean, I eat it up, the work, you know, like, and I love design, I love advertising. I'm not one of those jaded people that's always saying like, oh, the industry was better before. No, I like today, you know, like, and I try to take the most out of being here and connecting with people and getting to know the industry here better, and that's what kind of like inspires me to do better.
I love that. I love just how glass half full you see the world. And you're right.
I am.
There's a
Like,
little too much, back in the golden old days.
Yeah.
You know,
But in the future, someone will look
we'll
to
look
what
back
you're doing
now,
today,
yeah.
and you say
Yeah.
like, "Oh, remember in 2024 how amazing it was."
I'd love for you to share some insight or your personal philosophy. How do you go about cultivating such optimism? I think the world could use a little bit more of that,
Yeah.
particularly within the industries that we work in.
I don't know. Like I always say that as a Brazilian, I'm hopeless optimistic
Yeah.
about things, like which can be a good or a bad thing. Because like that say like in the end things are going to be all right, and if they're not all right now, it's not the end yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how I try to see things. And in the grand scheme of things, I think that I'm very lucky with my family and in the life I live, and the fact that we're all healthy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we need to take a step back sometimes and think like, what is a real problem? Like a real problem is something that you cannot solve. And I think that most of the problems that tend to upset us on a daily basis, they are solvable. I don't know if the word exists, but like you can do something about it. So that's kind of like how I see the world. But that's like I don't know if you're born with that, if it's something that's part of your culture, how you're raised. I don't think about it. You know what I mean?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that there's a cultural backdrop, right? We've had a couple of Brazilians on the show, and you all share the same zest for life, right? But I think just because something's cultural doesn't mean that it's not muscle that you haven't built.
Yeah.
Right? And I love the perspective that you bring. We don't know real problems. We don't have to walk to a river to drink clean water.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
We go
Life
and
is
turn on
good.
a tap. Life
Look
is good.
outside.
Yeah. We get to meet great people.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to shift gears and understand you as a leader a little bit more, because I think a lot of people that will tune into this will look at your career and will look at your A side and go, this is something that I'm working towards. Was there a defining moment, or if you look back, was there sort of this pivotal moment in your career that you look back and go that you see really shaped you as a leader, that really defined what you wanted to be as a as a leader of people?
I think there were many. I think that all the moments of transition, they carry a little bit of that.
Can you explain that a
so
little bit
for
more?
instance, for me, from working in a factory on the shop floor, I was in the quality assurance department in a factory that produces laundry detergent. So I was working on packaging. And I decided that I want to go and work in marketing. You know what I mean? Like, if Unilever had said no to that, like my career potentially would have been very different than what it was. I decided throughout my career, to always put my name on the hat, to do the jobs that maybe not everyone else was like craving to do. While everyone wanted to go to the hot brand that is already doing great work, I wanted to go where there was a problem to solve. I remember going to Mexico to lead skincare for Unilever in Latin America. I remember my friends telling me, don't take the job. I mean, it's like nothing will come out of that. And I was there, could make an impact. And then I was offered a job in New York to be a director for Vaseline globally. And all my friends said, don't go for Vaseline because Unilever always cuts the investment. And I went and I met the person who was my biggest mentor and coach my whole career, which was Steve Miles. And then Steve later on poached me to go and work with him on Dove. And I went. So I moved to London. And then we did Real Beauty sketches. We did amazing things for Dove. Which was also like a massive milestone on my career. Then I decided to leave Unilever at the peak of my career in Unilever to go to Burger King that had been acquired by 3G Capital, which is very different, or it was very different, or at least people thought it was very different than Unilever. So all these moments of change, like they come like packed with learning.
That's where the real growth happens.
Yeah, and it's not easy, to change from your comfort zone, from a place where you're loved and.
But that's where real growth happens, right?
Exactly.
On the other side of a door that makes you scared.
Exactly.
What are the essential skills that you look for in your leaders beyond creativity? That I think is sort of the core of what you do. But if I'm coming to you and I'm going, look, I want to work with you alongside you, and I want to lead
Yeah.
great people, what would you look for in me?
I love working with people who are very curious about things.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So if I'm interviewing you, it's easy to check if you're curious about things and how much you really want the job by trying to understand how much homework you did in terms of understanding what we are trying to do in our brand or in our company, or the people who are here, or the past campaigns that the brand has done, or the design work, or you know what I mean? Um, when I used to go to an interview in a company, like I would do my homework, I would know then inside and out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would showcase the interviewer that, that I did my homework because I really want the job. So being curious, I think, is really, really important. I think being able to work well with others, you never do anything alone. You know, it doesn't even matter if you're a CMO, CEO.
Yeah.
It's never alone.
Well, you become more dependent. You would
Yeah,
argue.
I need to bring you need to bring people along with you in that journey. You need to make sure that you're developing the new generation of people who are coming. That's also part of a CMO or a CEO responsibility. So, how much you care about others and work well with people, I think it's also a very important skill or competence.
Yeah.
Depends on how you see it. And I think like I like to work with people who are doers, you know, who can make shit happen. You know, like I remember when I was an intern or a trainee, I was the guy who would put my name on the hat for anything. It doesn't matter if it's on Saturday, Sunday, at night, that made sure people understood that I was there for real and to help us do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I never had like a small job, even today. You know what I mean? When I arrive, I don't even like that someone goes and grabs me a coffee. You know what I mean? I can do it.
Yeah. I can confirm.
Yeah, I know. You know what I mean? But I like people like that who are like hands-on, passionate makers who want to make shit happen, who are doers, who are not just like finding excuses or blaming the outside. You know, find a way. It's not easy. You know what I mean? Like if it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
Those would be the three, I would say.
I love that. And I think, you know, two of the most important qualities in a leader is humility and resilience. And I think that you've got that in spades.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah.
By no means I think I'm perfect, but I'm always trying to do better, you know?
All right. I want to shift gear just a little bit.
Yep.
Let's talk about growth. I think you are a craftsman when it comes to leading brands to growth, you know, and you've got a Rolodex of brands across industries and sectors that you have delivered the goods. As someone who's really experienced rapid growth, I mean, in particular at Notco, what do you do to foster continual improvement? You know, it's really hard being the most successful dinosaurs. A lot of businesses struggle with inertia in that way. How do you go about cultivating continual improvement and experimentation?
I think that they are slightly different, right? I think that when it comes to continuous improvement, which I think is super ultra important, especially if we are talking about brands that already consolidate and have like a strong market share position, I think it's trying to foster a mentality on people about in a positive way, though it will sound negative, should not just be like happy with what you have. You know what I'm saying? When I worked on Dove, it's like when I joined Steve on the Dove journey, we were together there for 4 years. It's not that the brand was declining; the brand was growing, but we felt that the brand could grow even faster.
Yeah,
you know, and instead of just running to do the next big thing, we first made sure that we are doing the fundamental things really well.
Yeah,
you know, so for a brand that's consolidated like that, making sure that you have your bases right, that people understand the strategy, that you have a clear roadmap on how you're going to achieve growth, and that you have the innovation in place that's unique to the brand, not just me too stuff that others are doing. I think that's, I know it doesn't sound rocket science, but I think
brilliant
those
basics.
Those are the things that I think can make a big difference for a brand that's already consolidated. For a startup or a brand that's smaller and it's like a world of possibilities, I think that the biggest challenge is how do you prioritize things, right? Because you're small, you have a lot of potential to grow. At the same time, you have limited resources and limited time from people, right? So the risk there is for you to spread yourself too thin. So I think it's really important to define what are the key priorities and make sure that when you launch or when you go with those priorities, that they are properly funded. You know what I mean? Like with the proper people
Yeah.
behind. It's so tempting to try to do so much.
Yeah.
Like a customer asked you for something, it's like low hanging fruit. We can make a couple of $millions here. Yeah, you can, but then it's the same resources of that's like working on this other big project, and people sometimes just don't see that.
Yeah. I think it's an amazing counterintuitive philosophy, right? You know, particularly in startup and scale up, that your success is actually defined by what you say no to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, look, I mean, doesn't even matter the size of your brand.
Yeah.
You will never have all the resources that you would like to have.
Yeah.
That's the reality of life, right? I work with very large brands, and yes, there was a big budget, but there were also like big objectives. You know what I mean? Like, and we never had enough money to do absolutely everything that we needed. On a startup or a smaller company, it's even more so. You know, and it's super tempting because you're so small and you have a great technology and you see all these areas of opportunity, like
and you're agile, so you can move, so that you can go and chase shiny objects.
But the biggest risk is for you to spread yourself too thin and not do anything really well, or you can even do things well, but you don't have the weight of the investment to make sure that these things take off.
And other side of the coin, you know, from your observation, where are we getting it wrong in growth? You know, what are the things that we think are driving good growth but are actually holding us back?
I think that like I see some brands like jumping on the latest and greatest in terms of technology, for instance, but not really thinking through like if that's adding a real value to their consumers or to potential new consumers. You know, like I see brands spreading themselves too thin. I see brands doing, especially the large ones, like doing very like bread and butter type of work and not cutting through, you know, and trying to, they may even win, but they win through this muscle of a strong sales team and through the muscle of the money. So they buy attention, like, and they could be winning much more by doing something that was more like idea driven or consistent or noticeable for
long-term brand building versus short-term performative outcomes.
You can do both, but like doing something that people will notice. If people don't notice, it doesn't matter if it's long-term or short-term. It's not going to work, right? So those are the classic, I think, not mistakes, but things that limit maybe the growth.
Tripwires.
Yeah.
All right, last question from me, Fernando. And we like to end with all of our guests on the same question. If you could go back 20 years and give yourself a few pieces of advice, knowing everything that you know now, the successes, the failures, the learns, what would you tell yourself?
I've been asked that question before, and it's like, I don't know if I would listen to myself, but like what I would say, I think that early days in my career, I have a very competitive nature. You know what I mean? Like I want to win. And I think that, especially at early days of my career, I probably would suffer with me comparing myself with others. You know, like that are from my class or same intake in a company. And when I was not ahead of the curve, I would suffer. Meaning I never, not anymore, but at early days, like I used to see everything as if it were like a 100-meter sprint race, you know, when it isn't, right? And I think that if you work hard, if you're constantly learning, if you know what you want, and you work towards that, on the long run, you probably succeed. But if you're looking at a sample of 12 months, that's not long run. In anything in life, a project or advertising or brand positioning, if you take a short or stock market, a small fraction of the time may not represent like a true win or a true loss. But that used to bother me. You know, and it's just a waste of energy. Right? Because you cannot
become
do
a
anything
prisoner
about
of
it.
it.
And what I've learned, especially when it comes to career development, is that sometimes people are on the right time, the right place, surrounded by the right people, and good thing that's going to go well for them. And you should not compare yourself, or even if you do, don't let that bother you so much, because you getting upset about something like that, it's just a waste of your energy. You know, focus on doing the work, on learning, on doing better, and be patient, because it's not a 100-meter sprint.
I love that. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is to you the day before.
Yeah, are you learning? Like, are you doing better? Are you happy with the work? Are you doing something that you're proud of? Like, focus there. I think it's a better investment of energy and time.
That's wonderful advice. Fernando, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Really enjoyed our chat.